Captain's log 250626. So it's been a while since I've been doing this. I was working on some projects that I've been kind of working on for a while. Um, they've been on the back burner for, I don't know, maybe 7 years now that I started with the idea, and then progressively been, you know, figuring it out. Um, and that is my app, Dog Pound, which I'm gonna do like a whole thing on it. It's an app for dudes to kind of like get together, play rec sports, play competitive sports, work out, go on a hike, whatever, everything. It's like the anti-social media. So it's social media that takes you off your phone, and like you go and actually do shit in person. So it's been like this like goal of mine for a long time now. So yeah, I'm trying to make it happen. I have it. It's on the App Store, and I'm like currently working through the bugs. And it's been this whole process. I had to learn how to like basically make an AI bot and all this stuff. Um, so it hasn't been like the most streamlined thing. But anyways, been working on that. I had another thing that I started working on at the same time for pilgrimages called Via Fide. It's a pilgrimage app as well. Um, and some other random projects, and then, work's busy, et cetera, et cetera. So all kinds of things happening in between then. I had some tough times with my business. Just all kinds of things. Like life gets busy. So, anyways, this has been put aside for that, but here I am again. I actually, you know what? I actually kind of missed doing this because it allowed me to take whatever thoughts and opinions that I had and just kind of organize it and, throw it out there. And sometimes you kind of think about things and maybe dwell on things. Oh, I wish people knew this, or this is what I think about this. And sometimes whether or not people are actually going to watch it, it's good to just like get it out. So then you can just be rid of it and focus on the other things that maybe you want to do or care about. So yeah, that's what I'm kind of doing here. Um, yeah, I know with this channel, I mostly talk about like trades and stuff. It's what I do for work. Yeah, it's kind of a lot of who I am because of my career. But as I just said, there's these other things that I care about and that I'm working on. Um, and one of the only reasons that I talk about the trades and stuff is because that's kind of one of the things I know about. I know the most about. Versus like, I obviously don't really. I'm not a software designer. I'm not whatever, a marketer, this and that. So I don't know those things in depth. It's more of something, a hobby I'm dabbling in. Um, and I'm the type of person who has like a million hobbies. I want to do everything. I love the idea of doing all these things, and it's like I end up not doing anything, to be honest, because it's like, hey, I'm busy, and I get like, I wouldn't call it ADD, but I just like, you know, I start doing something and I'm like, oh, that other thing I also wanted to do, I got to start that too. And I start trying to do everything all at once. So, anyways, I get a little overloaded. Um, but yeah, so I try to, all you can do is, try to do your best at what you're doing at the time. Um, yeah, but what I do know mostly is like the construction and trade stuff and all that, which is okay. Like I didn't ever consider that I was going to be, a tradesman or work construction. Like when I was in high school, I did all university courses. I was bound for, university. I had ideas of what I wanted to do, but I didn't really know. I played around with the idea of teaching history because I love history. Um, Lots of things like that. I was big into sports, so there was that as well. And to be honest, I would have loved university. At the time, I would not have gotten what I should have out of it. I would have been a total idiot. But, you know, had I been a little more mature and had, a better head on my shoulders, I would have actually like gotten a lot out of university. I know some people don't. Some people don't, do the varsity team. Some people don't really care about learning, but I really like loved that stuff. So there was things I would have loved out of it. But that wasn't my path. I sat down with a guidance counselor, and they ask you about your background and this and that, and basically the school that I was in was very heavy into the trades. Guys from my high school would win basically every year, would win the trades competitions and stuff. Like in Ontario, it was one of the top dogs for that kind of stuff. And yeah, you know, we have internationally recognized tradesmen like crazy coming out of that school. So that was basically the first thing on the guidance counselor's mind was, hey, get a trade. And she happened to suggest plumbing. So that's what I did, and I basically just like right out of high school started an apprenticeship, and there I was working. I was working long hours. It was non-union. It was you know it was just like a country plumbing company. They He was a farmer, like the owner was a farmer, and they worked on a lot of agricultural stuff. So like, you know, it was just like the hours were all over the place. They were never short, but you just didn't know when you were getting home, whether it was going to be like, 5, 6 o'clock at night or 12 o'clock at night, you know what I mean? Like, or 12 in the morning. Um, so yeah, I was working a lot. Um, and like I hated it. I hated everything about it. I don't know if I was really maybe even mature enough to understand some of the stuff. I was learning a lot of things, and I like to work hard. Like I physically love to work hard. I would physically outwork anyone, but the knowledge and that it just wasn't translating to me. I didn't understand necessarily why we were doing certain things, and then that made me just like not care. The pay was trash, especially for the trades, but I had a good opportunities to get an apprenticeship, so that's what I did. And back then it wasn't you weren't guaranteed to get an apprenticeship, and I was grateful for that part, and I wanted to do well. I just wasn't, maybe I wasn't the brightest kid. I don't know, just a lot of things. But as I learned and as I grew in my apprenticeship, and then finally became journeyman, I started understanding everything, and then it made a lot more sense and it became more enjoyable. I love problem solving, so that part, like when I actually got the task of solving things and building things, then it was a lot more enjoyable. Yeah. And with trades, like, you develop these real life skills and all that stuff. I've talked about all that. Um, but there was this whole other side of me that, like, I'd never really got to tap into. I have, especially back then when I was younger, I had a very creative side. Um, I have a lot of interests and a lot of things that I just I didn't have time for, and B, I felt that, like, I had to let go of, and that part's kind of sad. Um, but that's life, I guess. Like, it's it's not necessarily a good thing, but it happens. It's very common. Let's put it that way. But yeah, so I'm going to talk about that. But I just want to, like, clarify, because I hope these videos reach more than just tradesmen, anyways. That, like, not every person, not every guy, belongs in the trades or belongs in construction, um, or whatever. And that's totally fine, and that's important. Like, there's so many different things. There's so many different types of Delta guys in general, and then just a broad spectrum of things that need to be done, types of people that you need to have in the world, and they're all equally important. So, I was just thinking about all this stuff this week because, you know, working on these other projects and that, I have a lot of passion, I guess, for some of the stuff, and there's other things out there to do. There's lots of stuff that guys can get into. So, and that's good. Like, that's really good. That's a good thing. So, yeah, just clarify that, hey, just because I or somebody whatever is talking about trades doesn't mean that's just for tradespeople. There's lots of lessons and stuff that you can take from that, and you could put it into any kind of situation. And you probably have your own, situations that you learned the same lesson. It just came to you a different way. So, um, yeah, and anyways, there's a lot of cool shit out there to do. um, yeah, and it's important to get a job and make money. When you're young and stuff too. Uh, Even though you're trying to find yourself and all that shit, it's it's kind of a necessity of life that you have to go out and pay your dues and you know become an adult, and baby bird needs to jump out of the nest at some point, right? So you have to bite the bullet and get a job at some point. You have to go and do some work, and you know it's going to be your choice what you do. It's going to be what you get hired in, what you are good at, what et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's very important that you don't lose the other side of you, even though you're doing this thing that you may or may not like, and that may or may not become your career and your identity. There's don't let people tell you that you can't also be something else, right? A lot of us are a lot of guys, anyways. Like, we live these fake lives because we want to be cool, we want to be manly, we want to you know fit in society, or um, whatever. Like, whatever, our parents want us to do, whatever. And in some ways, it's like you have to kind of take that in and be like, yeah, okay, I understand, but this is also something I actually really care about, or this is actually something that I had dreamed about. So you have to yeah, you have to separate those things sometimes. And you don't have to follow everybody else's script. Uh, you have your own life. Only you can live it. And it's gonna be tough no matter what in a lot of ways. And that one's important because like your parents are gonna tell you the safe route. Usually, your parents care about you. They want you to have a good life and stuff. They don't want you to be risky and fail because you get hurt, right? That can happen. um, but it's also important to make your own decisions, especially as a man. You gotta at some point man up and make these decisions. And I make these videos to like try to help guys not make the bad decisions that I made. I made a ton of bad decisions, so that's how I'm here. I can be here talking about that. But it's also like super important to fail. And sometimes you fail hard, sometimes you fail a lot. I know I have, like, I've failed plenty even just recently. um my business and stuff, things like that, where it's like you have to learn those lessons sometimes the hard way. And you have to kind of go for it sometimes, no matter what people tell you. And don't be afraid of like the "I told you so" or any of that crap, because they're not doing it. You are the one doing it. You're the one learning. You're the one building. And you fail enough times, eventually you're going to succeed. And, you know, that'll be your moment, right? Um, but going back, like your interests and hobbies and stuff, it might be something nerdy, it might be whatever. And you really got to like not care what people think, because for every person that's telling you, "Oh, that's lame" or "that's whatever," there's hundreds of people who probably be interested in that. And you just don't know. I know when I was growing up and when I was like becoming an adult, we didn't have this whole connection. We didn't have like the social media and stuff like it is now. So you have this benefit, as maybe a Gen Z or whatever, like the alpha, the new ones, et cetera, et cetera. You have this benefit where you can see other people and interact with them and be like, "Hey, you like history, I like history. That's pretty cool. Like, hey, like we're fairly similar. Like, there's other people like me. I'm not weird, or I'm not a loser, etc." And you know you actually know, hey, I don't just have to like crush that part of me. um and people, even though people like in your immediate circle might be telling you that that's not a good thing. um and it goes for a lot of things. Like, if you want to take a shot at something and spend money or time on trying to build something, um, whatever it may be, maybe you're taking a shot at business. um, Maybe you have a hobby that other people don't understand. um, i'm trying to think of like I'm trying to think of examples of something that's I got one. Okay, so I'm super interested in history and all these things. I would love to try blacksmithing, and I've never had a chance to do it. It looks like super cool, and I would probably love it, but I just haven't had a chance. And an example of this would be like, let's say your wife or girlfriend is on your case because, hey, you just spent whatever money on this thing and you're spending a lot of time on it, et cetera, et cetera. Hey, that's lame, or that's not helping us in any way, and blah, 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 blah. Well, it, that doesn't matter. It's for you. You do this, go do the things you want to do. Life's going to be hard no matter what. Like, you can have a hard life trying to build a business in blacksmithing, and you can have a hard life trying to build a business in plumbing, or in software development or whatever. Like, you know, at least you're doing things that you kind of enjoy, and you don't have to do all these things as your main gig, right? Like, these can be hobbies that turn into whatever. And I know, like, everybody harps on that and everybody talks about that, but the big thing is, like, nobody tells you about the part where if you don't do those things, you start to kind of lose that part of you. I haven't played sports in forever, and I used to be like, you know, big time into hockey and rugby, like especially rugby, um, you know, everything, soccer, wrestling, jujitsu. I just loved going out and doing stuff. And I didn't have a group of friends that were necessarily super into that. They like to more party and drink. um, but then, I grow up and I buy my first house, and my time starts to get eaten up with that. Um, and there's things expected of me. Hey, we have to renovate. Hey, why isn't it done yet? Et cetera, et cetera. And you start pushing all your effort into that thing because, you know, in my case, it was like, hey, my fiance wants us to finish this, and just so happens I'm working a ton of hours at this, service plumbing place where I'm on call every other week, and that's all my life was, hey, I go to work for, usually it was between 10 to 16 hours a day, and then I go home and work on the house, and then, finally we save up a little bit of money. I can take a small sabbatical to work on the house, but I'm expected to work on the house for 20 hours a day. And like, that whole other part of my life gets cut out. And in the end, I didn't get ahead from any of that, but I also, not only did I lose in that department where, hey, didn't make the didn't make the money that, maybe should have out of the house. That whole life didn't work out. That whole, my fiance and I split up. All these things didn't work out. So not only did I lose that part, I also lost, the part where, hey, I wasn't playing rugby and going hiking and camping and all these things that I should have been doing with my time, any spare time that I had. I also didn't do that. So, you lose in more than one way, right? And you don't get time back. You can make the money, you can do all these things, but you don't get time back. So that's like, to round this out a little bit, that's one of the big reasons that, like, I was so passionate about this app that I'm trying to build, um, because I want guys to, like, get together, and I want guys to be, no matter where you are. I was in a new city and didn't know anybody. Excuse me. But I want everybody to be like, hey, I don't know any dudes around here, but there's this thing I can go to and I can find a pickup basketball game and I can go play tonight. Or, hey, I don't know anybody here, or my friends don't like the things that I do. I am looking for somebody to go on a hike with, or I'm looking for somebody who wants to play Dungeons and Dragons, or who is a power lifter who can spot me because I'm also a power lifter. Whatever you can dream up, because there's people out there. Like, you think you're the only weird one, but there's lots of us. uh, but yeah, and have a place where you can do that and not be stuck in this, like, listening to the people around you telling you what you should and shouldn't be interested in, and curate those hobbies and stuff. Get out and actually do the things, because, like, that is so much more who you are than your career. you know there's like, take it from experience. There's nothing worse than like your career being who you are, because that's all people knew me as. Like, hey, this is Joe the plumber. This is, you know, whatever. Like, that's how it was. And starting a business in that doesn't help. Um, but it was again a thing that I was like, hey, I need to take a shot at this at least. And there was lots of good stuff with it. Unfortunately, like, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of walls I ran into with it as well. Um, the whole economy, Canada, all these things. If you are thinking of it, don't do it in Canada. Move to the States first, because yeah, it's nasty out there right now. Um, yeah, but anyways, like, don't give up those other things. Honestly, to be honest, you can get you can get a new girlfriend, but you can't get your time back that when you're in your 20s to, play rugby. Or you can't take that once in a lifetime, fishing excursion opportunity with you and your buddies when you're all single and don't have kids. Like, that kind of stuff you don't get back. So, uh, you know, most relationships are kind of replaceable, but that'll never come back. Your buddies and stuff, you only have those golden years for that time, and then it starts to, disappear. And I'm not saying these other like relationships and that isn't important, and that other people, your wife, etc., isn't important, but you can't just give up everything for for something that you have no control of, and that's, it's not gonna it's not gonna um it's not gonna help your identity in that way. Sorry. I'm for some reason, so I feel like I have to sneeze right now. But yeah, anyways, you don't get that time back, so use it, right? And then, no matter what your age, no matter where you're at in life, like, you're gonna have interests, you're gonna have hobbies, and just do them. Like, find a way to make time, find a way to, you know, if it costs money, earn the little bit extra money that you need for it. Um, you still got to work, you still have to do all that stuff, but it's 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 super important. You have to have balance, and do those things. That's what brings you joy in life, right? And no matter how hard things get, like with, the economy, etc., there's always like things that you can do that don't cost anything. You can go outside and go for a walk, you can paint, you can whatever. Like, there's, whatever you're interested in, there's a way to do it for cheap. um Unless you're whatever, hey, my hobby's traveling, well, you're gonna be walking a long way. um but yeah, no, that's all I got today. Just, yeah, get out there, do some stuff. Check out Dog Pound. I'm gonna do maybe a video just on that. It's on the App Store. I don't have it on Google Play because Google's a pain in the butt, but I'm figuring it out. Right now I'm fixing like all these bugs, so you probably won't be able to make an account or anything, but give it like, a week, and I'll hopefully have it fixed. And yeah, get on it. Captain out.